This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Look, two simple things. Maybe you got an idea for a website or a business or a YouTube channel, a podcast, whatever. Knocking around in your mind, well, too. The only way to figure out if that is worth doing is to get it out to the world. And that can be daunting because it's scary. To pursue new things but not knowing how to set up a website is not an excuse. There are no excuses available with Squarespace. Squarespace allows you to create a powerful website for whatever you want to do. Sell something online? Yes. Set up a store? Do a podcast? Yes. Want to start a YouTube channel? Well, you do that on YouTube, don't you? But you'll have a website to complement it. Of course you do. It all starts on Squarespace with a beautiful template that you can customize to your heart's content. Or you can start from scratch or just easily move over from an existing domain, making everything super easy to manage. Look, don't start from scratch though. Take my advice. Just use one of their stunning templates. And once you've gone through the super easy customization process, there are no updates, there are no patches, there's no tech nonsense to deal with. Plus, they handle all the website-y stuff, like I said, podcasts, sure, mailing lists, yes, social integrations, member areas, and so much more. Squarespace removes the excuses to your dreams, so get started today. Plus, if you get stuck, customer support 24/7. Yup. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/brainfood, and you'll save 10% of your first purchase of a website or a domain. And let's get into it. Aluminium, aluminum, Z or Z, and removing U's from certain words or not. Among the many discrepancies between American and British English, perhaps none conjures as much religious fervour as math versus maths. So, which one is correct? Maths. Obviously. Not really, you're going to get a full explanation, but maybe it is. Who knows? You'll have to keep watching, won't you? Well, really neither is technically more correct than the other. It's all just language and conventions different groups of people want to use. At the end of the day, language is all about communicating effectively, and the rules that surround it are meant to serve that end, not language serving as the rules and conventions, contrary to what many an individual who refuses to accept the evolution of language might otherwise try to have you believe. As nobody is likely to get confused at all what someone is trying to say when they say math or maths, and saying one or the other is the accepted way to do it among two rather large groups of English speakers, the idea of saying one is definitely right and one is wrong is, well, it's a little bit rich, isn't it? But look, that's not particularly interesting. So let's stoke the flames of the fire a little bit and see if we can shed some light on how this particular difference between American and British English came to be. To begin with, which was first, math or maths? Turns out, while you'll often read that the math lovers of the world win this one, this isn't actually correct. Though it is true that even in the UK, it's not been until the last half century or so that saying maths was more common than math. But to start with, math, as an abbreviation for mathematics, dates back to at least as early as June the 4th, 1847, when W.G. Hammond wrote in his diary, "It rained so that we had a math lesson indoors." Again, it's commonly stated that maths is a later invention, first attested to in 1911 in a letter from English soldier and poet Wilfred Edward Salter Owen, where he wrote, "The answers to maths, Cress, were given us all this morning." It is next seen again after this in 1917 in a September edition of Wireless World with extremely rusty in maths. However, it turns out there is a much earlier known instance of someone writing maths, interestingly, occurring in America. In his letter from the Secretary of War, written by War Secretary John C. Calhoun in 1818, a man referred to as C.H.S. Davies is listed as Prof. Maths. There is also a third variation of this popping up in 1836, where it states Edward C. Ward, Prof. of Maths. Maths also appears in the merit roll of the cadets of the Virginia Military Institute, published sometime around 1854. It turns out one T.C. Rice and P.H. Warsham were, to quote, deficient in maths. No doubt, had they known over a century and a half later, they'd be called out in this very public way, and it would be all anyone would ever remember of them, they would have studied just a bit harder. In any event, in these cases, the apostrophe simply functions as the placeholder for the missing letters between the math and the S. It should be noted here that through all these early variations of maths, and maths with an apostrophe, it's not thought people actually pronounced the abbreviations this way, instead just using it as a shorthand way to write mathematics, which would then be spoken fully, similar to how you'd say professor rather than prof when encountering the abbreviation prof, as in the previous example, except for me who did it for your benefit, which was weird. It wouldn't be until around the mid-20th century that it appears people actually started to use math and maths as proper spoken words rather than just a written abbreviation. Unsurprisingly, for no known reason, even though both were used on either side of the pond for a time, the math version of the abbreviation ended up being more popular than its plural-sounding maths in the United States, whereas eventually the opposite was true in the UK. However, it's also noteworthy that it wouldn't be until around the 1970s that maths would overtake math as the proper form in the UK. Before that, usage was a bit more mixed on that end of the pond. This all brings us to the arguments often leveled at the pro-math speakers of the world as the definitive reason people should say maths and not math, that mathematics is plural, thus its abbreviation should be as well. Beyond the tenuous supposition that an abbreviation of something plural must inherently also be in plural form, those who say maths don't say my favorite subjects are maths. They say my favorite subject is maths, although why anyone would say that is a mystery. Similarly, there is no such thing as a mathematic to have more than one of. Or at least not anymore. At one point, mathematic was more or less used to describe a polymath. But the main point being that mathematics is not a counting noun. While you might say, I have 2 mathematics classes, you'd never say, I have 2 mathematics. There is just the broad field of study known as mathematics, similar to how we have physics, linguistics, and economics. In these latter cases, nobody says econs or lings, even if they're going to shorten the words. They say econ and ling. Physics is another beast altogether, as to our knowledge, nobody verbally abbreviates it, and even if it was phys, it wouldn't be clear whether the person was contracting the ending s or simply including the 4th letter, though the idea of calling a part of science phys is rather appealing, isn't it? Despite all this, particularly when querying humans of the British persuasion, folk etymology tends to lead said individuals to assume that despite their own usage demonstrating the contrary, mathematics must be plural because of the trailing s. It may even be that this idea is the reason the s was originally tacked on at the end of the abbreviation in the first place, with some individuals thinking mathematics was plural despite common usage. There is some evidence in support of this, where around the time these abbreviations started to pop up, you'll find a few instances of people actually treating mathematics as plural. For example, in Baldwin and Craddock's Library of Useful Knowledge, Mathematics, published in 1836, they say, now the mathematics are peculiarly well adapted for this purpose. In truth, mathematics is simply a mass noun, like music, water, faculty, garbage, furniture, evidence, humanity, luggage, that has an S on the end, similar to physics or economics, and again, it's considered uncountable and generally treated as singular in the way that it is used. Although it is noteworthy that some mass nouns that refer to a group of something, like faculty, can go either way in usage. For instance, the media is sensationalizing the news, or the media are sensationalizing the news. But, unfortunately for the mathematics is plural crowd, other than a few isolated instances in very recent times, likely stemming from the misconception that mathematics is plural, it's long been the case that mathematics has been almost universally treated as singular in common usage. Now, you might at this point be wondering, if mathematics is not plural, how did that S get there in the first place? While there seems to be some debate here, this seems to have come about owing to a common convention around the time that mathematics first popped up in English, where it was en vogue to use a plural name for different fields of study, such as economics, linguistics, physics, acoustics, etc. The practice seems to have been adopted borrowing from the related terms in ancient Greek, like physica, or in this case, mathematica. But at the end of the day, both math and maths are just abbreviations for mathematics that turned into proper words, with some choosing to go with the contracted version of the abbreviation instead of the shorter math, and it just sort of catching on one way or another from there. Neither math nor maths is more correct than the other in the general case, though if you happen to be writing for an audience that you know predominantly uses maths, you should go with that and vice versa, unless you're just one of those people who likes watching the world burn. And either way, well, God help you if you're a British person working with many American scriptwriters and talking to a worldwide audience on a platform particularly known for commenters with no filter. The problem of math versus maths. Oh boy, it's just the tip of the iceberg for that sorry individual. Bonus facts. Long before math was being used as an abbreviation for mathematics and then becoming its own proper word, in Old English it meant mowing, or more aptly, cutting grass or other such crops. Mathematics didn't actually come to mean just arithmetic until around the 18th to early 19th century. Before that, it included many fields of study, including astrology, music, arithmetic, and even optics. Astrology? The difference in usage to the present definition is the root of the misunderstanding about St. Augustine's advice that Christians should steer clear of mathematici. He wasn't referring to those studying mathematics, as we think of it, but rather astrologers. Now that makes more sense. So I really hope you did enjoy today's video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up below. Don't forget to subscribe, and thank you for watching.